Why do so many blacks follow the Democratic Party then?
Inertia. Don't forget the Solid South Party that followed the Democratic Party for over a century. So blacks have been into this, what, 67 years now. I'm hoping that blacks will wake up faster than the Solid South did. But these things go, the Jewish vote has gone Democratic by overwhelming majority, and it's hard to see why, given the policies and so on. But once this inertia gets going, it'll keep going for a long time.
All right, so we're going to listen to Joy Reid here go into full panic mode over black voters shifting to support for Trump. She mentions a few hilarious things in here, and her guest is utterly comical. But check out her hair. Apparently, she had enough of people making fun of her for the Trump style wig, so she decided to go all natural. Still blonde though, so that's interesting. Let's see. Anyway, let's go.
So this is what white boy summer used to look like, and it was a frequent sighting indeed. In this case, we're looking at Confederate flag waving students in Birmingham, Alabama, singing Dixie as they terrorized.
That's interesting because those are likely Democrats. Democrats were the cause of the main supporters of slavery, the cause of the Confederacy. They made up the Confederacy. They caused the Civil War. They are responsible for Jim Crow laws, and it was Democrats that started the Ku Klux Klan. But she's going to ignore all of that, and then let's go on.
2 black girls on their way to school. And this is what it looks and sounds like now.
The more they throw at Donald Trump, the more they throw at us, the more we support him.
And the solution is to deport every single illegal alien who came to this country under Joe Biden's regime.
For Joe Biden and
that actually sounds like a great idea. Let's deport every illegal that's in America. They shouldn't be here to start with, right? I don't understand the disdain or the I don't understand anyone being upset about that. They shouldn't be here. They say no one is above the law, but apparently people coming across the border illegally are above the law because they want to keep them here, coddle them, pay for them, support them. And now Joe Biden is giving them citizenship.
and Dr. Joe Biden and Hunter Biden, all in the Biden. They're a bunch of feral dogs, right? It's a family of feral dogs. We're gonna have to fumigate. We're gonna have to fumigate. It's gonna be a new day, and MAGA will run things. They're gonna know that MAGA is not only ascendant, MAGA is in charge. It's very simple. Victory or death.
It's funny how after Karine Jean-Pierre yesterday made a big fuss about so-called, cheat fakes, and how clips are cut to just portray an image that the right wing wants to portray about Joe Biden. But I mean, here we see this. All news media, they all do that, right? They cut out, they wait for just the right clip, just the right words, and then they'll clip that part and then create an entire narrative around it. So it's not. Now, MSNBC is highly guilty of that. If you've ever watched it for any amount of time, you'll know that half of what, more than half of what I'd say Democrats and anti-Trumpers believe about Trump is because of the so-called cheap fakes, the clips taken out of context and honestly just blatant lies. But anyhow, let's go. I'm not sure. I didn't watch this part of the Turning Point, this thing, so I'm not really sure what context all of this is in, Steve Bannon or Charlie Kirk, any of it. I did watch the Benny Johnson's segment. It's on his channel. I suggest you go watch that. That was really good and really energetic, just as Benny always is, and it was exciting.
Dude, aren't you in jail yet? Joining me now is friend of the show, Jason Johnson, professor of global journalism and communications at Morgan State University and host of the podcast, A Word with Jason Johnson. Jason Johnson, White Boy Summer, what's not to love?
Oh, quite a bit, actually. And no particular offense to any particular white boys, but if the first white guys you can think of are like Jack Harlow and John B., I think that's an insult.
I don't know who those people are, so I don't know. I don't really know what he's talking about. I don't get the reference. Apparently he's proclaiming that white people should know that Jack Harlow and I have no idea who these people are. So, yeah.
To like real white boys who know hip hop, like, I don't know, Beastie Boys. I don't know. Maybe it's just my person.
I do know the Beastie Boys. I'm a big fan. Saw them in like 90. I'm not sure, 95 maybe, 96, somewhere in there, and on a tour they did in the summer. And I had never been to like a concert like that style of music, though I've been a fan of Beastie Boys for a long time. But that was the most energetic and sweaty show I have ever been to. And I've been to a lot of concerts, but that one was just so full of adrenaline and go energy. Anyway, that's off topic.
Perception of, maybe even, heck, I'd go with Jelly Roll before I'd go with those guys.
Okay, so let's talk about this convention, because it is sort of interesting, the juxtaposition of Trump being in a black church with no black parishioners and some black Republicans who are like MAGA Republicans, so they're not like us type of blacks. And then he goes right over to the place where where the food fight was between the people you saw on that stage and David Duke, who said it was too much for him, he couldn't stay, and Nick Fuentes, who got kicked out. So they're fighting. Your thoughts? I
don't know what she's talking about.
You know, it's amazing. You know, there's the famous joke when you're a kid of like, this is a picture of a cow eating grass, but the cow's gone because the grass is gone. It's just white. Like, that's what these conventions are. It's just white people. It's just angry white people. And you could put a couple of
racism. That's always the race hustlers' weapon of choice. They constantly scream racism, but then that's all that they exhibit and all they expel is racism.
Triangles in there for their pointy hats. This is the thing. This is Joy White so amazing to me that we're forced into these idiotic narratives every single campaign season about Donald Trump, or most Republicans in general, and their attempts to connect with black people. First off, they're driven by wishful thinking on the part of Republicans. No Republican has made any real attempt to recruit black voters since, I don't know, Michael Steele. Right? And Reince Priebus didn't really want to help him in doing that. Sorry, we got to be honest about that. It's been almost 10 years now. Every attempt by the Trump administration or the Trump campaign has been disingenuous. And then it's
so nobody has tried to reach out to the black voters. No Republicans tried to reach out to black voters in 10 years. And he's kind of slamming them for that. But then Donald Trump is trying, and he says it's disingenuous. Come on, man. To quote Joe Biden.
It's bolstered also by these ridiculous polls that we see. They say, 25% of African Americans are going to vote for Donald Trump. Most of these are not functional polling firms. And if it's not Cornell.
That's a good one, isn't it? We don't like the results of the polls. They're panicking. They are panicking because the polls show support for Donald Trump in the black community, and they're terrified of that. Donald Trump only needs, if he gets what I think 15%, no Republican has reached a 15% of the black community since the civil rights bill. What was it, the 1964, 1965? So Donald Trump is now showing in the latest, not this poll that they're about to talk about, but in the previous poll, the one that they're panicking about, showed, I think, 23% among black voters. Now, I don't expect that polls and actual votes to line up, but polling gives a fairly good, accurate measure of the sentiment in that moment. So as of right now, it's probably fairly accurate, but we'll see.
and it's not hit strategies and it's not the griot, right? It's probably not a reliable poll. So that's what we're seeing, Joy. It's the beginning of silly season, and black folks, unfortunately, are on the menu.
Yeah, I mean, let's just note that the Times Siena poll that everyone got so excited about had like 900 total respondents, so like 90 some odd black people. That's not enough black people to poll whether they are, like McDonald's. Like that.
Okay, now that's not accurate at all. When they give a poll, most polls, I was reading about this, most polls are between 600 and 1,500. So 900 falls right in the middle of that. They say, I was reading they have a poll of 1,000 gives a margin of error of about 2 to 3%. So I mean that's a pretty good a fairly good measure. 900. That's actually a right in the middle of where that you would expect polls to be. So, but they want to detract from the polls, saying that the polls that we didn't like were not legitimate because they're panicking. Again, they're just panicking.
That's just not enough people in a sample to say, 23% historic. But when you actually look at some polling that gets more specific and drills down a little bit more, so USA Today actually did a poll, and they actually plussed up the sample to about 500 respondents, which is a little bit better for at least for a poll of African Americans. That's pretty big. And they polled in the swing states of Pennsylvania and Michigan.
Hold on, I missed that. What? How many did she say? Let's see. I think it was back a little bit farther.
So USA Today actually did a poll, and they actually plussed up the sample to about 500 respondents, which is a little bit better for at least for a poll of African Americans. That's pretty big.
500. Oh, I see. She's saying the first poll only had 90 black responders, and this one has 500 responders. But I really don't think that makes a big difference because just a minute ago she was saying 900 responders to a poll wasn't enough, and now she's saying this is 500. I don't know.
And they polled in the swing states of Pennsylvania and Michigan specifically. And they found that, surprise, surprise, Biden is still the first or second choice of the vast majority, while most would avoid Trump. And while there is a softness in Biden support and people have some reservations about him and have some interest in third parties, guess who got no more support than he did before? Trump. These voters despise.
Let's also not forget, I think the first poll that they were trying to detract was a poll by Chicago University. That's what I think. I'm not certain. I'd have to check on that, and you can go check on that. But the poll I think they were quoting was from a Chicago University, University of Chicago, I think. But this poll that she's talking about now, where it gave them the numbers that they liked, is from USA Today. And I mean, we all know USA Today is liberal media, as is 90% of the media in the United States. It's almost all left-wing liberal media. So I think USA Today was the first one that I saw that responded to that previous poll that they don't like. So I'm assuming that USA Today got those results and said, "Oh no, we're going to fix this. We're going to fix this right now." So then they devised their own poll to get the results that they wanted. Now they said they have 500 responders. Now how did that work? So I'm curious. Did all of those go out at once? Did all of those go out into a specific area? Now I'm not trying to detract from the poll. It's just interesting that one poll says one thing that seems to be a academic-based poll, and then one that's liberal media-based gets a somewhat different result, but we'll see.
Is Trump, when you actually poll and ask a significant number, they don't like him, despite the gold shoes, weirdly enough, and being a criminal.
Right. Despite the gold shoes, but despite the 34 counts, beside the sort of rappers who danced around him, who he's probably paying off one way or another. And this is the thing, Joy. We can continue with the McDonald's thing. You remember those old commercials? You wouldn't go to a burger place for fried chicken, right? You wouldn't go to a Chinese food restaurant for pizza. Why would you go to polling firms that don't really know much about the black community to get polling on the black community? It does.
Again, I think that poll was out of the University of Chicago. I don't know. Take that for what it's worth, but it seems like they would have somewhat of a thermometer in the black communities.
doesn't make any sense, and it's often not reliable. And there is a huge difference from a statistical standpoint, from a campaign strategy standpoint. There's a difference between soft support and interest in the other party. I can say right now that I wasn't hugely in favor of the Boston Celtics, but I definitely didn't like the Dallas Mavericks. These are completely different things, right?
Right.
And that's what's happening in these polling situations. Black people's opinions have not changed of Donald Trump. They've actually hardened. Joe Biden has a much better chance of bringing black support back to him at 2020 levels than Donald Trump does in lifting his numbers past 12%.
Listen, yeah, I heard someone the other day. I think it was either CNN or MSNBC, and it was a black guest, and he was saying that he expects for black voters to come home. See, this is how they think. They come home, as if the Democrat Party is somehow where all black people should be. I just think it's kind of disgusting. It's racist.
And let me ask you, which do you think should we be paying more attention to? Because you have what I've now called blackster-turfing, where you find like an already existing MAGA person, put them in a chicken joint, and then say, look, magically black people in this chicken joint love Donald Trump, when they've preordained who's going to be in that room, or going to a church.
You mean like the way that they sent Joe Biden into literally someone's home who he had just paid off his college loans? I mean, this is seriously, let's make a comparison here. Going to a Chick-fil-A, which, you know, I think it was a black conservative outfit that invited him over there, or Joe Biden, who goes into a black family's home where he had paid off their student loan. He had paid off the father's student loans. I mean, this is that makes no sense. Here, this guy is bad, and that's illegitimate. But here, our guy is okay, and it's like so much more obvious and so much more scripted.
Where the pastor is black, but there's no black people in the room, and then getting the media to pick up on this idea that Trump is courting black voters. And then the black people there are not from Detroit. They're not from the city. They're from somewhere else, and they were bussed in, and they're already Trump supporters. So I
don't think that's true. I know this is the narrative that they're pushing now, but we've all seen the I can do a video on that. But the pastor of that church was showing Donald Trump gratitude for coming. The other leaders in the church were sitting there at a table with him. Now, I doubt that the pastor of the church and the other leadership of the church are going to just be sitting there running a staged presentation, as they would have you believe. It makes no sense. And they say, well, Donald Trump's fans can't. I have no doubt that Donald Trump's supporters that follow him probably everywhere he goes came to that church. And some of them, or even many of them, were white, but that even goes again, it completely destroys the narrative that his supporters are white supremacists. They're all white supremacists and racists. Why would they show up into a black church? And then you can see they all everyone's mingling together, talking. It completely destroys the narrative that they're trying to create, that Donald Trump supporters are these terrible racists and white supremacists and all of this nonsense.
there's that. Or is what's going to be more compelling the actual image of when you watch MAGA people work? Because when you look at those people inside that Turning Points room, all you hear is rage and hate that for most black people, right, it feels like the old version of White Boy Summer. When
there wasn't actually rage and hate. I'm telling you, you should go watch Benny Johnson's portion of that Turning Point, because that was really great, and it was anything but rage and hate. It was nothing but love, joy, laughter. It was really good, and it was really compelling, and it was really exciting and energetic. I encourage you to go watch that. I'll leave a link in the description.
White people scream at black people for trying to go to school and such.
I don't know if that ever stopped. But here's the other thing, Joy. At least the examples you're giving include actual black people. But what we've seen from a lot of the Trump campaign is AI black folks with 7 fingers, handing out flyers at houses because they can't find any actual black people who support them. Look,
Well, that's
if you
crap.
want
We
to
all
go
know
to a
that.
Waffle House in Atlanta at 2 o'clock in the morning, then I think you might actually find some young African American voters and see what they actually think. But as long as you're going to go to a church, and you're going to go to a church that doesn't have African American.
I want to see. Let's see here.
They can't find any actual black people who support them. Look, if you want to go to a Waffle House in Atlanta at 2 o'clock in the morning, then I think you might actually find some young African American voters and see what they actually think. But as
What was that? Go to a Waffle House at 2 o'clock in the morning, and then you'll find African American voters telling you what they really think. What does that mean? Has anybody been to a Waffle House at 2 in the morning? What's this guy saying? It's they don't even realize the things that they say, I think.
As long as you're going to go to a church, and you're going to go to a church that doesn't have African American parishioners, and you're going to have media outlets that refuse to actually ask, hey, do you actually go to this church? You're going to have this disingenuous messaging. But Joy, here I think is the most important thing. At the end of the day, it's not going to be
Another thing, wouldn't you think if it weren't the people who go to that church, the congregation who goes to that church, for sure liberal media would have sought those people out and said what gave them a voice to say, yeah, that was our church, but it wasn't us in there. They would be running that on the news 24/7, interviews with the churchgoers, the regular members of that church. They're just so full of crap.
matter of whether black people turn out. Black people tend to turn out in general on presidential elections. They're important local issues. It's going to be whether or not the Democratic Party as a whole can put effort into turnout and in fighting voter suppression in key states like North Carolina and Georgia, and yes, occasionally certain counties in Pennsylvania. Because the vote is going to be there for Joe Biden. The vote is going to be there against Donald Trump. But you've got to make it possible for people to vote and not have everybody try and build houses out of straw and bricks just to get their rights out.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a GOTV issue because if voters are not enthusiastic, it is the job of a campaign to get them to the polls. They don't have to fall in love with Joe Biden. They just need to vote to keep our democracy and to keep themselves out of womb slavery if they're women or girls. Jason Johnson, my friend, thank you very much.
Unbelievable. Unbelievable. I don't understand how they can keep pushing this narrative. I don't understand how liberals and left-wingers and Democrat voters can keep buying this, that they're trying to save democracy. Look at the utter destruction of democracy that we have seen from the Biden administration. The utter destruction, not only them, but all the way back to 2015, 2016, 2017 with the entire Russian collusion thing that we know now that Hillary paid for, that it was all fake. It was all created by Hillary Clinton's campaign, or the spying on Donald Trump's campaign by the Obama administration, the Department of Justice and the Obama administration. I don't understand at all how these people can think that they're Democrats, they're the ones supporting so-called democracy. I don't understand what their idea of democracy is. I think it just means keeping us in power perpetually, constantly, always, infinity. But anyhow, that's my thoughts on it. I thought that was a funny clip we could get into. Hit the if you like this, if you enjoyed it, hit the like, share, subscribe. Let me know in the comments if you agree, if you have something you disagree with, if you want to talk, if you want to argue. I'm good with that. I believe in open conversation. I believe in free speech, and I believe everyone should exchange their ideas, especially when they disagree, so that we can find a middle ground where we can all find the compromise and what works for everyone. So thank you. Take care.